What's up, guys? Welcome to What the Dealio. I am Siano.
And I'm Mike Steinberg, and today we have our special guest, Ryan Tseko. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Welcome, brother. We're going to dive into lots of different things. We already got talking a little bit.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some real estate deals, maybe some aviation, maybe some biohacking.
Yep.
We're just going to jump in, man. I love to start the podcast with, Ryan, who are you?
Yeah. Well, number one, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm in New York City for 7 days, and I wanted to stack, because I really think life's important about partnerships.
Sure.
And this is like a partnership, right? And so I appreciate your guys' time. Really, thanks for having me here.
Of course.
I'm a little bit of a unique bird. My uncle was a builder, so I was in real estate from a very early age of 13. I realized I didn't have any money at 17, so I became a pilot. I realized I'm going to either use my hands or use my brain. I wanted to pick my brain because I wanted to fly. I mean, look, it doesn't take much to talk somebody into flying a $40 million jet, having flight attendants roll with you everywhere you go, and exploring the world. I like to pride myself as I like to really explore, and I'm very curious. And so I was 17 years old. I committed 140 grand, talked my mom into get me a loan, became a pilot. By the age of 21, I got hired on at a commercial airline, so the youngest you can be. And
Wow.
then I ran that career so hard. Like you can probably feel my energy. Like everything I do is like, it's either all or nothing.
100%.
And so I literally, I until I was 25 years old, all I did was eat, sleep, and shit aviation. And when I was 25, 2008, 2009 happened. And I started buying real estate again in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Amazing.
And I always like to combine things too, right? So I was a pilot and I wanted to create a crash pad. And so I bought my first home. It was a 4-bedroom, rented 3, stayed in 1, $400 cash flow.
Smart.
So I was reading all these books about real estate, right? I'm like, oh, I can buy an asset, not a liability. Because I looked at my balance sheet and literally like all I had was liabilities. I had a street bike and I had a BMW and I had a Ford Lightning and I had all this cool shit. But I was like, oh my God, my insurance bill is more than my mortgage. And that's really when it flipped for me at the age of 25. I'm like, I'm going to sell everything. The BMW got 30 grand, put it down on a 3-plex. The Ford Lightning got 20 grand, put it down on a 4-plex. And so I just started really looking at my life and I wanted to create real wealth. And I did that. I had 21 units by the age of 30 years old. And I looked up and I said, what's next? And that's actually when I found Grant Cardone on YouTube. And 9 years later, here I sit. I run Cardone Capital with Grant. We have 12,000 units that we own. We have 24,000 plus that we manage and operate. And, that's me. I'm an aviator at heart. I'm really passionate about real estate, and I just try to tie everything together to have a great time, but do the right thing.
Fascinating.
I have a question for you. When you're looking at deals right now, what do you look for in a deal?
Well, I mean, look, we're jumping right into real estate.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Mike, going for the real estate.
Let's go, man. Let's go. I know what's on your mind. Look, I think when I'm looking at a real estate deal, one of the things, and this is actually what I've learned from Grant too, I've always been a deal guy. I've always been a deal junkie, but I think the quality of the asset and the location really matters. And so I used to look at a lot of deals and a lot of shitty deals. Now I've really refined, because you guys got to think about it. I was 30 years old. I'm now almost 40. I've been with Grant for almost 10 years. The first 3, 4, 5 years, I was with the man every day. Like every day.
Yeah.
You met Grant down in Aventura.
Yes.
I mean, so
Yeah, well, I mean, it's first off, just to kind of back up for a second before we get into the actual real estate. No, it's amazing.
Excited,
Listen, we're all deal junkies, and the podcast, What the Dealio, I get it. But let's just step back for a second. You said so many things there that I want to kind of unpack a little bit. First and foremost, you created your life essentially, right? Like this is all kind of master planned in a way, which is what I find so fascinating. We've done the same in our own careers and life. And I think that's so important. So I just want to stop for a second on that, because you got into aviation and real estate as a means to kind of meet somebody like a Grant that you could attach yourself to learn from, essentially. Am I right? Is that?
Oh, for sure. Well, I mean, I looked at my uncle. He was successful. He was an entrepreneur.
Right.
My uncle was like my dad from the age of 10 to probably about 18, 19 years old.
Okay.
When my parents split up, like I went with my mother.
Got it.
And so my uncle was an entrepreneur, and I was like, wow, because my dad worked at the railroad, 9 to 5, 401k, like he was building for retirement.
Yeah.
My uncle was like, okay, we got a computer business. If you build this computer, you get paid X.
Right.
he would take a piece of dirt. He was a builder. He built spec homes. He built custom homes. Like he was like, I'm going to take this dirt and this is my art. I'm going to go and build a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom. And that to me was fucking fascinating.
Sure.
I was like, holy shit, I'm not the best in school. I'm not the best at, writing papers, but dude, I can do this.
100%.
Because what I saw was a command figure.
Yes.
And so, really, I was like 17 years old and I was like, hey, what's next? What's next? I want to buy my first house. And he looked at me, he's like, son, you don't have any money. He's like, you have no money. So he wanted to always be a commercial airline pilot. And like my life is very fascinating and there's a story for everything, right? But he wanted to be a commercial airline pilot. And he took off out of the airport one day in Seattle, Washington, and he got lost.
Wow.
And so when he got lost, he had a family, a wife and a daughter. And he got to the point where it scared the shit out of him so much where he's like, I got to put this on the back burner. I don't want to lose my life because of my family, right? Because that was the most important thing, which was really the wrong thing in hindsight, because get the proper training, get the proper communications, and you'll be great. But when I was 17, he's like, man, I would love for you to pick up where I left off on the commercial airline space. He's like, obviously you have a lot of potential. You're a sharp kid. You can get in this training boot camp, and it had evolved quite a bit, right? And it had become a really, really sexy career. And so that's what I did. I was 17 years old. I joined a puppy mill, like ATP, our Regional Airline Academy. And I realized I didn't have any money. I needed to get really good at something to get money, and that's where I landed. Yeah, which was fucking awesome, right? I mean, it's like going to fly a $40 million jet. When I got hired, I was literally telling Kinsey, the last person, I literally had to pinch myself. I was 21 years old, still wet behind the ears, talked the chief pilot into letting me fly this Bombardier and even go pick up these brand new ones. Like, it's a $40 million jet, 70 passengers. I'm the first officer. I'm like, hell yes. I literally went from twin engine airplanes to a turbo jet.
Wow. From like a Cessna to a turbo jet, basically?
From a Cessna to a Bombardier.
That's crazy.
CRJ 700.
Crazy.
And I was very appreciative too.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, it is fascinating. Your background is fascinating. There's a lot of synergies. I went to college in Arizona, actually. I went to the University of Arizona.
Oh, nice.
I did. So I left here, where we are right now, in Long Island, New York, and moved to Tucson, Arizona at 17. And boy, was that a culture shock for me.
Right.
It was so different.
Yeah, in Tucson, right?
Tucson.
Yeah.
Man, yeah.
It's not even Tempe. It's Tucson.
Different. Yeah, real different.
Yeah.
But I learned so much out there. And I feel like, it's interesting that you were dealing with, your parents splitting and, just figuring things out as you went. But so real estate is something, and I'm getting there, Mike.
Yep.
Real estate is something that you always had interest in as a result of seeing your uncle's success and kind of not trading time for money.
Yep.
Is that right?
And he didn't have the model. His model was, I'm going to build and I'm going to sell.
Right.
And I'm going to make 30, 40, 50, 60 grand. I'm going to pay tax. I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
The break in that model is the tax and then also the wealth creation.
Right.
And so it's gradients, right? For me, that was my first gradient. How do you, number one, how do you like, what's the investment thesis and strategy? Like, I've always wanted real estate. I've never understood stocks and bonds and mutual funds. And, like I understand companies because, real estate is a company, but I never understood why I would give my money to a 401k to let another person manage my deal. Right. And so he was a very active manager. I just, when I realized real estate was for me, I was always like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Because I think real estate's a great tool. You just have to do it the right way. And you have to scale it so that way you don't end up becoming a manager.
So walk us through single family home. You're renting out rooms essentially so you could live in the house as a pilot.
Yeah.
And then from there you graduate.
Yeah.
What's the next step?
So I thought I was the king of the hill, right? I mean, I literally bought a home for 50% off what the last person bought it for. Because in 2008, 2009, 2010, everything was on sale in Arizona.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. No, for sure, not anymore.
Yeah.
And people are realizing the value of real estate, and there's going to be some correction, like there already is.
Oh, for sure.
But I bought a 4-bedroom home, and I rented it out, and that was my house hacking. But I knew that I didn't want to just stop with one. I wanted to create enough passive income to replace my earned income. And at the time, like when you go through pilot training, this is what people don't realize. Like back then in 03 and 04 and 05, you got paid 48 grand your first year because they were spending 30 grand to get you rated and trained to fly those airplanes. And so I literally, think about that for a second. I went and paid 140 grand in student loans to make 48 grand my first year.
Yeah.
I was 21 years old at the time, thank God, because otherwise I don't know how guys do it, right? Like if you got a family and everything else. And then in year 2 and in year 3 and
but you're moving different. That wasn't right. Like you were just all in on that to get to the next thing, to the next.
Well, because at that time, and this relates to real estate too, when you don't have experience, you have to work for free.
Yeah.
And this is relatable to real
That's with
estate
everything.
too. This is with everything, right? Too many people, literally, they go to work to just earn. For me, I've always gone to work to learn. Like I'm not going to work to just earn money and collect it. I want to be surrounded by the best of the best so I can learn what they're thinking with. How do I build a team? How do I grow with a team? And like, how do I scale with a big group? And that's what I've done my whole life.
Let's stop there for a second.
Sure.
Why is that so rare? Like, why do so few people, especially young people today, like we all have that and we did that and that's how we got where we are.
Right.
But why do so few young people realize that you just want if you're in such a better situation, if you go work for somebody, yeah, it's the microwave like
I feel like
mentality.
that's the new way that everyone has. You know, they don't put in that work. You know, I just did a deal and I didn't. It was a $23 million deal.
Yep.
And I didn't make a fee on it because I wanted to learn how to raise equity and raise debt. And you know, I stepped on the sideline and just learned. And now I know how to raise equity. I know how to raise debt and I can put these deals together from my experience. And I love that.
But go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's a good segue, but go ahead.
No, I really think though, to your point though, I think it's marketing, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Maybe I am, but I honestly believe that the marketing in the U.S. is like, oh, be an entrepreneur or don't work for somebody or don't do this, is actually the wrong information to give to the youth.
Yeah.
You know, like my dad always wanted me to go to the military. Wasn't going to do that because I didn't want that level, but I joined the airlines because I needed a level of discipline.
Yeah.
I think discipline's really important to teach and to mold and to craft people because it's really when you're young, like, are you showing up at 5:30, at 7, at 8? I didn't have an option. Like literally when the flight, they told me to be there at 5:30, packed my shit, woke up at 3:30, I was there. And that level of responsibility and discipline is what's brought me to where I am today because I've literally been able to take the airline structure and convert it and transfer it into the real estate company, which is Cardone Capital. But I think the young or youth, it's the same thing with the homes. You know, buy a home, get a good job. You know, like it keeps you in one area for the rest of your life. Like back to the exploring. Life is about exploring.
Yes.
But these bigger institutions, you know, they control the headlines.
They want you in the system, basically.
They do.
Yeah,
there's no question. I mean, when everything is negative in news, there's got to be something that's tweaking out on that machine in the background, right? I mean, you got to. I mean, I got to just say, I mean, if I turn on the news and everything is negative,
oh, man.
and I look around and there's so much positive,
yeah,
like come on, it's time to wake the fuck up.
100%. Which it goes back to being, you know, your tribe, man, who you're surrounded with, and positivity and energy.
So important.
Love the energy.
So important, man. Grant Cardone, to surround myself with Grant Cardone at the age of 30 years old was the best thing that I ever elected to do in my life.
I don't doubt it.
And I gave up a career too. I literally gave it all up. I was like, screw it all.
So
you don't regret it at all.
Well, absolutely not. Hell no. I mean,
you made the right choice.
I mean, I wish I knew Grant when I was 21. But I didn't.
Yeah.
But you know, that's the biggest regret for all of us is it's like, man, if I just knew like way back then, but there wasn't social media wasn't even a thing when I was 21 years old.
Yeah.
My mentors were literally like an old, like a book, because books weren't even a thing. Like I'm dating myself, but I'm almost 40 years old. How old are you?
46.
40, how old are you?
32.
Yeah, 30. So I'm 40 years old.
Yeah.
Like a lot has changed in the last 10 years, including the rules and regulations that you talked about for doing deals, raising money, putting yourself on social media. This whole thing has opened it up for partnerships.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and by the way, you're doing it with like one of the best that's ever lived as far as raising capital. And, you know, talk about marketing. I mean, like Grant is the most genius marketer on the planet.
Yep.
You know, it's insanity. So
no editing.
Just
doesn't care.
Run and gun.
More the better.
Yeah.
No filters. Like these are things that literally now I'm trying to emulate. Like even coming here, I was like, man, I don't really want to go an hour and 25 minutes, but I'm like, I'm gonna meet two really dope dudes. I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna burn through just a bunch of emails and everything else on the hour and 20 minutes. But this is what Grant's willing to do, is what other people are not willing to do. Whether it's the phone, whether it's the live streams. Like I've literally watched this man for almost 10 years, work every day. He's on a trip right now. He's working every day. Like it's the same thing that we started with, right? Yeah. He's never worked a day in his life. He's a grinder for sure. But all of us, I think, are grooved into like, okay, what's the beacon? The beacon is, yeah, I want to make money. Yeah, I want to have cool things. Yeah, I want to do cool things, but I want to help people too. Totally. And that's what that's his MO.
Sure. Yeah. It's the best. He's passionate.
The motivation just runs out. You know, at a certain point, you got to be pulled. You can't push yourself, right? It's just got to be super passionate, and you know, that's what takes you to the level that he's at. You can't get there without that passion and being of service. Yep. You know, which I think he is. I think, you know, to your point, I think that's really something that, you know, at a certain point, there's only so many watches and cars that you could have. And by the way, I see your watch, and
which was a gift from Grant,
which is crazy. But
amazing,
Mike. The funny part is that Avi is Grant's jeweler.
Yeah.
So
I know, I heard that.
And Avi's super dope too.
Crazy too. My stepsister's husband, like my brother-in-law, he was Grant's next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah. The world keeps getting smaller.
It really is. And it's like everywhere we go, everywhere we turn, you know, I'm walking down the street and they're like, oh my God, Captain Ryan or Ryan, you know, like, it's really cool to have friends everywhere you go. And Grant has preached this. But to your point, you know, beautiful watch and like jewelry, that's never been a thing for me, instant.
Yeah.
I've always wanted like the nice cars. Like I got a R8, you know, it's wrapped and it's got a wing and it's badass, you know.
As you should. Dude.
Yeah, as I should.
You're a pilot.
And I want to buy a fighter jet, which is an L-39. It's like, actually there's 400 of them here in the US.
Crazy.
And I want to buy that because that will feed this inner beast. But I do all these things and you know, again, I'm not like trying to get it today. I'm trying to get this over the next 10 and 20 and 30 and 40 years, because I think what we're all building is something a lot bigger than a watch or whatever. But it's cool to have. It's fun to have.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
We're going to get to the deals, Mike, but I have another thing on that point.
He's a deal junkie.
Yeah, 100%.
He's a deal junkie.
Yeah,
he's like, give me some cap rates and give me some doors.
And we're going to get there. We're going to get there. But, you know, it's funny because as I get older, you know, it's all about discipline for me. Like, it's all about, everything is about discipline. And I think delayed gratification is so important. So I'm now, and I, similar to you, like early on, I'm a car guy. I grew up in a car dealership. So like cars, motorcycles, I still have several.
Yep.
I can't part with my Ducati. Like that thing will always be in my life.
Yep.
I never
a newer one or older one?
No, a 96 996.
Nice.
Yeah, no, an older one. But now it's like there's cars that I want and I can go into a dealership and get right now.
Right.
But I'm like, if I get that now, I'm not going to be as like, what am I going to look forward to? Because I can't go buy a jet. Right. Because I wouldn't know what to do with it. Like, I mean, but I could.
But would you buy a jet or do you lease a jet? Like, what's the right thing to do? Could you write off a jet?
Well, I mean,
of course you can.
Yeah.
How does that work?
When you're talking about jets and, you know, like silly, stupid shit like that.
Crazy.
You can't ever make sense of it. Grant actually talks about this. He's like, no CPA, no accountant, no anybody's going to make sense of a jet. You have to make sense of a jet by how busy are you.
Right.
For me, going and buying a fighter jet, literally, I'm doing this video right now. It's like I can either go buy a Lambo. Like I was watching Barrett Jackson 2 days ago, and like there was this Lambo and GT, Ford GT, it went for like $900,000.
Yep.
I could literally go and buy an L-39 fighter jet. I'll show you a photo for $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, and it was a trainer for these pilots over in Europe before they stepped into the like the F-16 and some of these bigger jets, right? So for me, I'm like, okay, it looks like a fighter jet. It's got an engine like a fighter jet. It maybe goes 450, 500 miles an hour, which is still really fast when you're 20 feet above the deck. And I can use it for other stuff. I could use it for marketing. I could use it for, you know, you come down to Miami and we go for a ride. And so, you know, like you had said, what am I going to do with it? For me, I built my whole life around aviation and real estate. I know what to do with it.
Yep.
Because it is a real piece of real estate, but I know how to fly.
Of course.
And so literally I can go get trained in 2 weeks on this.
And you can
L39.
monetize it, right? Like, you know, you're not just coming out of pocket and buying this thing and like it's sitting there collecting dust.
Oh no, it's gonna be branded.
It's a tool, everything.
It's gonna have 20x, 10x, you know, 5x, whatever x they want to throw on that thing.
Yeah,
that one video that you put on Instagram had like 23 million views. I saw it the other day. thing is insane.
23 million views.
Oh,
What is it?
Which views, something like that.
Some of them are, me just taking off. Some of them are me flying. Some like the aviation piece is really built. And I didn't realize this, actually. It's interesting. I thought it was I didn't think it was a waste of time, but I thought that I thought that I wasn't going to be able to use it as much as I actually have. When I go into a real estate conference, like, for example, Don Peebles, right? If I go and say, hey, I partners with Grant and, run Cardone Capital and, fund manager, and we've raised $1.1 billion in crowdfunding, and he's like, congratulations, this next guy just raised $5 billion, this person raised $3 billion, this guy has bigger. You always have a bigger plane pulling up on the ramp. But when you talk about flying airplanes, what I've noticed is that whether it's the owner of Lifetime, whether it's Don Peebles, whatever it is, they actually have a connection with flying, whether it's from a childhood experience or maybe they're pilots. A lot of these guys who are high performers are identical. They're exactly like me. They want to do more than just one thing. I think one thing, it tends to get boring.
Yeah.
And so I think mixing up the mind and actually cross-referencing things has really helped me grow exponentially in my life. And not to mention, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't party, I don't do all that other shit.
Yeah.
And so really I'm just focused on biohacking and health and wellness and looking at a shit ton of deals and, talking to and really being professional around a bunch of investors and, creating that whole thing of greatness.
Love that.
No, it's great. We can dive into deals. I know that you're jonesing over here.
I have a question for you, though. I see that, I saw your Instagram bio, you own you guys 20,000 apartments.
Yep.
What are your goals in the next 5 years?
So, look, I think in the next 12 to 24 months, we could literally purchase between 7 and 10,000 units because there is going to be an opportunity with rising interest rates. Yes. A lot of these guys, they had this short-term model of 2 years, 3 years. Our model has always been 10. And the reason why we did 10 is because of the situation that we're in right now. Yeah. I highly encourage people, if you're going to go out there and do a deal, set it up with people who have good attitudes. Set it up with investors who understand real estate, and don't go out there saying, hey, we're going to do this in a year and do this in 2 years. Real estate was actually created, and I believe, to create wealth, not just to get rich. Really the wealth creation is like buy a deal, great deal, cash flow it, live off the cash flow, protect the principal, get the leverage from Bank of America or, life insurance company, whatever it is, right? The bigger, the better, like as far as like the quality of the deal, more people want a loan on it. And then, whether it's a exit, no exit, where you can refinance, pull money out. The crazy thing in the world is that the tax benefits and the exit, no exit are the two pieces that most people don't even talk about.
Of course. Tax benefits is huge.
Which is depreciation, bonus depreciation, using that, refinancing, don't get taxed. It's like, what are we even talking about here? Like this fix and flip model, you do that to grab the dough to roll it into these long-term investments.
In a 1031.
Yeah, whatever, whether it's a 1031 and or doing double or triples or whatever it is. But I think there's a huge opportunity right now, especially if you have cash, right? So if you have cash and you could raise money, I think it's going to be a good time.
Do you ever try and get the owners to hold a note?
Yeah, if they'll do it, for sure. I don't see that a lot on bigger deals. Like if I'm going to a big institution, hey, you want to do seller financing? Rarely will they do that unless they have a huge issue.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about multifamily, and this is what I love about multifamily, is that you have the agencies, which is Fannie and Freddie. It's government backed. And so they're always, it's important for the U.S. to have homes. That's why when people are looking at, what should I do? Should I do this real estate? Should I do this real estate? Should I do the real estate? I prefer and I recommend that you do something that has like the attention of the government. I'm not saying rent credits and all that stuff. I'm saying that the financing and the pieces, like there's one thing that people need in this life. It's food, water, and the good old shelter.
Yeah. Sure.
It's three components of life. And so that's why I always say, hey, let me just focus on this one thing. We've got some office complexes that we actually bought one from Goldman. It was 6 months ago. Bought it on sale in Scottsdale, Arizona on Franklin, right in Scottsdale Road.
Sure.
But we'll do it where we have headquarters, and so we're very strategic.
Is that where the headquarters is?
Yeah, so my main headquarters is in Aventura, which is north of Miami. Yeah. And so we have an office building there.
I know that building.
And it's beautiful.
I drove to that building in February, and I put on my LinkedIn, I'm trying to get in touch with Grant Cardone. Someone get me in touch with him.
Super cool.
And they got me in I spoke to Jared.
Yeah.
And, I sell real estate, but I mostly sell businesses. That's what I do. So car washes, healthcare deals, laundromats, supermarkets, any type of manufacturing, any type of service businesses.
And real estate's attached to
real estate's attached. I do a lot of hotels.
Do you sell them or do you also buy them?
I sell them, I buy them, I raise money for them, I put equity in, I get equity in the deals, I put my commissions into them.
Yeah.
It all depends.
Yeah. You're just getting creative.
Just getting creative. Build. So like if I see a deal and I can assume, like I'm sure you guys try to assume debt if you could.
Sure. Yeah, I'm actually doing a deal right now in Fort Myers that I'm assuming a debt. It's 2.85% fixed for the next 5 years. Huge value component, by the way, to assuming debt right now, especially when debt's 5.5%. I just got a quote last week. Debt's 6%.
Okay.
On 10-year, because with the treasuries and the way they're moving and everything else, it's bananas.
That's amazing. So we go in, we assume the debt. I try to get the owners to hold the note as well, take a second position, get them comfortable with me, and try to buy deals with as little cash as possible. If I have to put cash in, I'll put cash in. But it's fun. Yep. It's so much fun.
Yeah. I always tell people, creative financing, there's always somebody's money that's going to be in the deal. People are like, well, how do I do it with no money in? Well, look, you get really creative. But there's always going to be money from somebody going into these deals. And you just now have to, how can I?
How can you do it?
Yeah.
What's the solution?
Yeah, because you're creative. Yeah, and so am I. I've always been creative, man. I mean, my second deal, third deal, I actually talked the neighbor, because I bought a fourplex. I talked the neighbor into doing seller financing, like after 4 months of badgering him and, walking him through it. I'm like, hey, I'll put 10 grand down. It's a $200,000 fourplex. Right. And I was so confused. I was like, but how do we do the interest rate? How do we do the timing? How do we do this? And I literally, I called him one day and I was like, hey, what are you good with? And he's like, well, I'm good with, 5% interest rate, and I'll hold the note for 5 years, and I'll do this and I'll do this. And I'm like, well, holy shit. It sounds like we got a deal, boys and girls. Ended up buying that deal for 200 grand. I flipped it. I sold it for, made 100 grand on that fourplex.
And you put 10 grand down?
I put 10 grand down.
So you only bought it with 10 grand. You had the cash flow pay for the balance.
Yeah, I put 5% down, which was 10 grand, 200 grand, 5%. And literally within 12 months, I sold it for 300 grand. I packaged it with the other fourplex, and I ended up with 225 net from those two deals.
And I rolled it 10 grand down.
Yeah, and I ended up rolling it into bigger deals.
And this is pre-Cardone, right?
Yeah, so this is
on your own. This was your own investing.
This is pre-Cardone. I ended up with 21 units. But I knew I wanted to get bigger, right?
Sure.
And I was like, okay, man, how do I get, a complex? And I called the debt guy, and I was like, how do I get debt on a multifamily deal? And he's like, well, does it pass DSCR? And I was like, what in the hell does that even mean? I was like, DSCR? You're speaking Greek and shit to me. I'm like, God damn, let me get my friends on the phone, right? And so blew that call right out of the fucking gate. And so I was like, how do I get really good at this? And so I started learning all the vocabulary. I was 27 years old. But I hit a roadblock because I didn't have any cash. I had to get creative. And I ended up with 21 units. I got hired on with Grant. I was at lunch with him one day in Chicago, and I said, man, look at all my units. I was kind of bragging, right? And he looked at me. He's like, dude, those are garbage, man. And he was like, those are shit. He's like, I remember when I was a kid, I used to buy those. I was like, well, what would you recommend? This whole time I'm trying to get Grant to let me invest with him.
Yeah, sure.
Because before that, nobody was able to invest with him. He wanted to buy the deal, hold it for himself.
Yep.
Because, again, he's a very conservative guy. He's just like, I'm going to buy it, hold it forever, maybe sell if somebody offers me something crazy. But he's always been this long-term holder. And so when he told me they were garbage, and I said, what would you do? He said, sell them all. I literally the next day went and sold all my 21 units. Ended up with 500 grand, paid the tax, had 400. He let me roll the 400 into 826 units in Nashville, Tennessee. Within under 4 years, that 400 flipped into 1.126 or whatever it was. So he made me a millionaire.
That's amazing.
You can't make that shit up.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Mike.
so
you go ahead. Jump in.
Have you guys ever? So you guys are just strictly, your asset classes are strictly multifamily. Have you guys looked in businesses before, like car washes or any businesses where you can bonus depreciate?
Yeah. So the company that obviously I oversee is Cardone Capital, right? It's fully focused on real estate. That's all I want to do. The sister company, which is Cardone Ventures, they focus on that model, which is how do we take companies who grow and scale? Because you guys have to keep in mind, we have a training component to our company as well, which is a really, really, really phenomenal model. Because when you think about, whether it's real estate or businesses, the start is really typically really slow, right? We don't go and make tons of money buying a real estate deal. That's not what you do it for. You do it for the long-term 10 years. Whether you sell it, make a profit, that's where you get the real juice. But Cardone Ventures, which is Brandon Dawson, he leads that company, and Grant oversees the training, the Cardone Ventures and Cardone Capital. That's where we go in with companies and we train them, but we also partner with them because we believe in that model for sure. Like any model that's scalable, whether it's dentists, doctors, car washes, mobile home parks, self-storage, like cash flow businesses are highly attractive for our group for sure.
Yeah.
So that's the KKR model, by the way.
Yeah.
Like you guys know KKR and these big groups, like they've literally become big behemoths because they go out and they scale cash flowing companies. And that's what we look to do.
Yeah. So that's what we do. Have you heard of the term business? I'm sure you have business brokering.
Yeah. Yeah. Where you find a business and you sell it, right?
So that's what we are. We're the leading business brokerage in the East Coast. 150 brokers right now. We also have a training program as well where I teach real estate agents. There's 3 million real estate agents. There's only 15,000 business brokers in the country. There's 30 million businesses in the country right now. There's only 15,000. 20% are for sale at all times. So it's 6 million businesses. There's only 15,000 business brokers. So we came up with a concept where we teach these real estate agents how to sell businesses. You know, we have an online course, we have podcasts, we have training, we show them how to get interested leads. And that's what we're doing right now. And I'm just curious because you're around Grant. He has a huge training. Not a lot of people know this. He has a huge training business, right?
How do people not know? That's how he started, really.
Some of the young people, they don't know. They see real estate.
They just think he's the real estate mogul.
They see the evolution more so than they understand the process of how he got there, I guess. Right?
Which I think is a fascinating model for sure, and I know that's the one you're on too, and I think it's ideal.
Yeah.
I mean, so Grant started out as selling that, right? And then he eventually got into real estate.
He's in car sales.
I mean, look,
right?
you know, because you were at the car dealerships, right? He used to literally go knocking on doors at the car dealerships, and he would run these training programs that were 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, and he would do them all over the country. He was a moving bus. Like he would move to the different locations, cold call people. Grant has a lot of grit about him because his grind is real.
Oh yeah.
And so like people I laugh are like, oh man, everybody's an overnight success and Grant's an overnight. I'm like, oh my God, like if you just knew the amount of grit this man has.
People love talking shit too, though.
They love talking shit, man. They build you up to rip you down. I'm like, God, dude, there's enough out there for all of us. Abundance is actually a thing. Of course. Yeah. But let me just say this really quick. The training piece with the Cardone Capital piece, with the Cardone Ventures piece is really, people don't get this. When you start a company, there's that spool up. The training is actually it's more instant, if that's the right word. But when you go out and you provide training for people, right? Because we have a big platform. It's called Cardone University. People pay us to teach their sales training people how to become better people and how to sell and communicate, because we weren't taught this shit in school. And so literally Grant makes money on that each year. And that's actually how he first started out funding the real estate. And people miss this whole piece because it's like, how do you brand? How do you market? How do you do all this stuff? It's really hard to just do it if you have a real estate company because you're limited. You're limited in your budget. On this piece over here, you're not as limited because the margins and everything else, what you're selling, are higher.
Way higher.
It's also like, so my company is Sabre. We have several companies underneath that umbrella.
Yep.
And owning Sabre for 13 years and the core backbone of that business being commercial real estate brokerage and consulting advisory, it's a service business, right? So we've grinded for many, many years to get to a point where we can invest in real estate, invest in concepts, right? That we believe in, that we get in early in. And it's similar to that model. Like you can't be so hyper transactional forever, right? Like you can, but that's not how you're going to build wealth. Right. To your point earlier, you can get really rich. You can make a lot of money, but the minute you stop, you're out of money. Right. Like the minute the pipeline dries out, you're out of money. Right. So investing in real estate, business is a little bit different, but real estate, again, with depreciation, with all of these things, these tax loopholes that the wealthiest people in the world take advantage of. I mean, that's just what it is. That's the game. Yeah. Right? Like it's
been the game too.
Yeah.
But people are like, oh, well, how does that work? Don't worry about how it works. Just go do it.
Exactly.
Literally stop listening and just go do what the wealthy is doing.
Just learn how to do it. Exactly. And, you know, it's funny. You said to yourself, like, I wish that I met Grant earlier, right? You know, I was listening to a podcast. I forgot who it was, but Lewis Howes had a guest on, and he was just talking about.
Love Lewis.
Oh, phenomenal,
Dude,
right?
he's
heavy into cold plunges, by the way. So that's how I got connected to the company we were talking about earlier. And what's crazy is, you know, the guest on the podcast was going into how we all have basically a perception of ourself that is conditioned, right? Based on our physical, like we start to get to know ourselves as a result of the way that other people perceive us, the feedback that we get, the conditioning. But our truest self is actually, you know, is an energy that is not attached to any of that shit. Right. And it's like super deep and like, it's holy crazy. Shit, crazy. Yeah. But I'm like, fuck, I love that, right? Yeah. Because ultimately, we all know as successful entrepreneurs, we all know that you're basically, if whatever you perceive, if you put the right amount of action behind it and you have the right people on your team, you could achieve it, right? It's discipline. It's just doing the same shit over and over and over again. And I think, like, when you said you wish you met Grant earlier, I wish I met you earlier. I know. You know, like this Same. Is what's up. Like it's almost like
brotherhood.
Right? Like it's crazy. And the people, like, I don't drink. I don't, you know, but I used to do all that shit. And I just, like, every day that I would wake up, I'd be like, you know what? I just want to be a little bit better today than I was yesterday. Right. And I'm not saying that because it sounds fucking cool. There are a lot of people that are saying it because it sounds fucking cool. Right. Yeah. But there's a difference.
It's trending or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's the fun. And
prove it.
Right?
Yeah,
people see me jump into a fucking bath of ice and like, oh, I want to do that. Fucking do it. Yeah. Like, stop asking me about it. Just do it.
Yeah. It's easy to say no to that shit too.
100%.
I literally, the ice is different here in New York. I told my girlfriend yesterday.
Oh, dude, like, I'm walking through the snow to get into it. You know,
it was 42 degrees. I was like,
phenomenal.
Oh my God, this is like cold as I thought of Kevin Hart. I was like, this is cold as balls right now, baby. Like,
by the way, our next podcast is in a cold plunge, the three of us.
So. Oh, 1,000%.
We're fucking doing it.
Yeah. With like an oxygen mask on and shit, you know, with like
done.
But how long can you do it for?
I see. It's for me. It's not about that. It's about I'm 3 to 5 minutes in it, you know, and I'm just. It's literally like a box that I'm checking.
Yeah.
For me
what temperature do you roll at?
I personally like it in like the 39 to 45 degree range.
Yeah. That's cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
That's cold. I mean, 3 to 5 minutes in 39 or 40 or 42, like the shit freezes at 32 degrees.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Yeah, it's cold. Yeah. But that's when I'm going back and forth in the heat too. Right. You know, so it's not as it's still fucking cold, right? But I love the feeling when you, like, if I jump in my tub, I don't shiver unless I'm doing contrast. When I'm going back and forth from the heat to the cold, I can't control my body, and I love that. Like that, then I feel like something else is taking over and some shit's happening. Right. Don't know exactly what it is, but I fucking like
blue fat, brown fats,
brown fat,
energy, whatever.
I was like, yo, all the benefits of. I'm like, how about I just feel fucking amazing?
Right.
Like,
yeah, because the adrenaline and the dopamine and all that stuff that they talk about. I mean, I feel it.
100%.
Like I feel it. Like we've never even talked about this before, but I've been grooved into cold plunges for the last about a year.
Okay.
And when I did this thing with Gary and Grant partnered with Gary actually at 10X Health, it was really important for me as I started to age, right? Because I'm almost 40 years old.
Yeah.
That I wanted to take really damn good care of my body.
Yep.
And so I was like, I'm willing to do. You tell me it's going to do something, I'm going to try it because I want to feel it. And so I do saunas, I do cold, I do all this stuff, and I feel it.
Yeah.
And so I continue to do what I feel.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that people really start to shift that. You can't, when you're young, don't take that for granted. Like, don't eat shit.
Yeah.
Eat really good stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's going to carry on. Like, I got grooved in to eat really healthy early on. And so it's really helped me with my physique and my credit. Like, I'm almost 40 years old.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can rap with, 25, 30, even younger kids. Like I was telling you, I went to Barry's boot camp this morning. Don't
buddy.
judge me. Don't judge me, okay? Orange Theory didn't have their energy on point yesterday, so I had to go to little Barry's.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm
in the red room, crushing the red room.
Don't let it leave the red room, baby. Don't let it leave. But I could say that's my girlfriend. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do this with you. That's not cool. That's not this. That's not this. Or I can be like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a shot.
Sure.
And it was hard. It's actually hard because I was like 30, it's probably like 36 or 37 years old. And I started to notice that I was sitting a lot more. I was still eating good, but I wasn't in shape. You know, I don't take like any testosterone, or I don't take anything else. Like I'll do some peptides and I'll do some vitamins and I'll do all that stuff. But I was vegan for about 4.5 years because I wanted to try it.
Yeah.
I wanted to try, and I felt good.
Yeah.
But I noticed that I was eating more carbohydrates and more of this, and I wasn't feeling peak performance. So about a year ago, I started adding in red meats. I don't do chicken, I do red meats, and I do fish, and I do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I just supplement a bunch of other stuff. And man, I feel like I literally feel really fucking good.
Like dialed the fuck in.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
next level.
I mean, when you're 40 years old and you have a 3, 4, 5, 6 pack, and feel good about yourself and walk around, people are like, "Man, you look really good."
Yeah.
That's good to have.
Yeah, for sure. And I've seen Grant get in much better physical shape, like over the last handful of years. I feel like. Since that time, maybe.
Yeah.
I got to learn more about 10X Health. Like.
It's grooved in. It's right up your alley.
Yeah,
like it's the whole blood work, and it's the whole gene test, and it's the whole cold and exosomes, and like there's NADs, and it's fun.
Yeah.
Because
I'd
it's
love
all
to talk about
blend.
TRT because it's just like the hottest topic, and I've never gone down that road, but so many people like are talking to me about it, and I saw some dude die yesterday in the New York Post, and it was in the article directly related to TRT in the article, and I was like, "Whoa, I don't know enough about it."
Yeah,
to
and when
comment.
you say TRT, like you're saying, like the human growth hormones and all that stuff,
like testosterone replacement therapy.
Okay,
I just don't know. I mean, we don't have to go down that road.
Right.
I'm just saying in general, like it's becoming very popular.
Yeah.
And people are talking about it quite a bit. And then I saw this article yesterday. I mean, this was obviously a bodybuilder that was, probably a little bit more extreme.
Yeah, look, I think your body's a very fascinating creature, and I think that the older you get, if you lose testosterone, if you lose the ability to create it, I think you need a supplement. I personally don't do it, but it's like, God, if you're losing this, is this really what ages you? Is it really the sun? Is it really this? Is it really this? Or is it that your body's not producing youth?
Right.
I've heard a lot of really good things about supplementing that.
I have too.
Yeah.
And I want to get more educated on it.
Yeah, and your beard definitely does not need any of that.
I appreciate it, man. It's probably all the the good sleep I'm getting.
Yeah, yeah. Sleep's important.
Sleep's very important.
Sleep's important. I get 8 hours every night.
Oh, I try.
Yeah, man. 7 hours, 8 hours. Yeah. That's kind of my
deep
sweet spot.
Very deep sleep.
I track it. I track all that.
Say you have a Whoop.
Yeah, I got a Whoop. I got an Apple Watch. I just try it all. I mean, if they wanted to, I'm not going to let them plug something in, but I mean, I'm curious.
Yeah. So back to the real estate.
Yep.
So as far as the crowdfunding of deals and you guys are invested heavily in the Sun Belt, are there certain markets that you like better than others, and just kind of walk us through your thoughts on those things?
Well, I think migration is important. I always say this, where the people go, the returns go. I think where when you're investing in real estate, people are moving, people are leaving. I just think that your assumptions, because look, real estate, when you're investing for 5, 7, 10, 20 years, it's based on assumptions, right? Sure. Like, what do you think it's going to do? Yeah. The Sun Belt has been really good for us and many people. It's because the people are going to these states.
Yeah.
And so for me, the thesis is very simple. You literally, you go and find a great asset, but that great asset, you have to build relationships, right? Because you can't just go and find a great asset and think that they're going to sell it to you.
Sure.
You gotta be connected with the brokers. Yeah. Like you were saying earlier, you have to have a good broker.
Yeah, of course.
And I always say, it's like, right now the market, when there's confusion, there's opportunity. Yeah. I think that there's these off-market deals. Use caution. I think that, most of the stuff that we buy is on market. It's with, great brokers. We buy a lot of deals from institutions. I mean, I can go through a list, like all the big names that as far as institutions.
Yeah, of course.
We've bought from.
Well, you have track record too. They love dealing with you.
Do you look at stabilized deals that are just stabilized? Do you look at value add?
Yeah, so we look at so value add is interesting, right? 3 years ago, maybe even 4. It was before COVID. We were looking at a great deal, trophy, Class A in an A location, and a B deal, maybe in a C or B location. And the yield literally was the same. Like you could buy a 3.5 or a 4 or a 4.25 cap rate, and you just like, okay, do I want to do this value add execution risk, or do I want to buy this in a great market, which is in Florida, and just ride the wave of rent growth? Right. Well, we did this one over here, which is actually less risky in my opinion, by the way, because this has execution risk. You got to do all the rehabs, and you got to do all the tenants, and you got to do all the reposition and all that.
Like your property in Boca Park, like would that be an example of that, next to the shopping center with all the goodies that I love?
Yeah, so we operate and own 2 deals in Boca. There's one on Military, which is 10X Boca.
Yes,
that's the one we bought from a merchant builder. Yeah, and people, if they don't know, merchant builder is somebody who actually builds to sell. That's their model, right? Because they get their fees, they pay their partner off, and they move on to the next deal. That is like, we bought that, rents were, and I'm just spitballing here, right? I mean, these numbers, rents were, $2,600, $2,700, $2,800. That is Cougarville. So in Boca Raton, you got cougars sitting around the pool. I mean, these chicks will scratch your back. And so it attracts a lot of good-looking guys like yourself, where you guys can go down there from New York. There you go. And now rents are, call it 38, $4,000, $4,200. And so we've literally rode that wave of, you just got to manage it really, really good. Yeah. Compared to Camino Royale, which is 10X Meisner, which is literally over on the other side of the 95. Yeah. It's in downtown Boca Raton. Trader Joe's right behind it, Fresh Market on the corner. And this deal, we actually bought it from a big group who bought a portfolio. This wasn't in their scheme of things because they typically like the value add $800, $1,200, $1,300 rents, and that's where they live. This one had rents of $1,900, $2,000, $2,100. But I saw this deal and I was like, the location is bananas. I was like, this thing is a trophy. And we ended up buying this deal, and I've spent almost $5 million rehabbing it inside and out. I'm going to do all of the units. I'm going to do inside and out. I'm going to make this thing cherry. Rents were at $1,900, $2,000. I'm now getting $3,000, $3,100, $3,200, $3,300 for the same unit, $2,400. Now I'm getting $3,200. And so the valuation, right? Like, I can do the math on my calculator. Yeah. Like, if you literally think about this for a second, okay? And this is probably a damn good example.
You're getting Mike very excited right now that you're breaking out the calculator now. Now we're in the deal.
You saw the location. You saw
of course.
So 1,900 to 3,000?
Yeah.
Well, because here's the play. On 235 units, just say we get it all, whatever, carbon back, whatever you want, on $1,000 per unit. This is per month increase, which is $235,000. And then good old real estate is in a yearly $2.8 million. So you think about what you can generate on the top line. Now, all that's not going to go to the bottom line. And I don't really care because I don't need it all to go to the bottom line to double and triple this deal, right? Because when you put down 25% or 20% or 30%, you actually don't need the deal to double and triple your equity.
Right.
You actually just need the value of the building to go up 25, 35, 40% to do a double and maybe even a triple on your equity.
Right.
Of course. And that's what you do, 20, 30% down. That's really your sweet spot?
Well, right now, no. Typically we live in the land of we bought a deal all cash, right, from Goldman Sachs. We bought a deal all cash, $70 million in Scottsdale. 50 to, call it 70%. Depends on the deal.
It depends on the cash flow that's coming in the deal. Every deal.
Yeah, it depends on the deal. Yeah. But I just think it's really important for people to realize, like, real estate is very powerful because when you could raise the rents and
your timing's also been amazing, right? Let's be honest, your timing's been phenomenal because those assets were acquired pre-COVID.
That one was pre-COVID. We have deals that were bought during COVID. We have deals that were post-COVID. Yeah. I think as a portfolio, I think people, that's actually, it's interesting you said that. I think people get analysis paralysis too much, where they're like trying to hit the timing so perfect. We've just known that we want to hold these deals for 5, 7, 10, 15, 20 years, and it's all going to blend out.
Oh, 100%.
And we're going to but to your point, I mean, our timing, we've just doubled and tripled down in the markets that we've already invested in. In Florida.
But I was just going to say, though, that's the strategy. You said when you're doing with your hands, you said we chose to do this. You bought amazing real estate in amazing markets, right? So, like, if it's a long-term hold, how could you lose, essentially, right? And then you're also
you don't lose until you sell. And if you never sell, you don't lose.
Right. And then you also...
Which is a very fascinating concept.
That is,
of course.
If people want to after...
But I guess I was going to make a statement. I'll ask a question. It appears that you also upgrade the amenities when I'm driving past your property in Las Olas and I look in at the gym, which, you know, obviously I love looking in at that gym. It's beautiful. It's
crazy.
Right? So I'm assuming that you're creating a lifestyle for your tenants that's attractive as well. Is that right?
Well, we always strive to provide, you know, because we are moving into a renter's nation, which is a completely whole other topic, right? But
it's another podcast episode.
But it is for sure. And people are like, well, why would I rent? And I'm like, why wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. Because I currently rent where I live and I invest where these numbers actually make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
I'm not hoping and praying that the appreciation, all this stuff goes up. I'm not saying it's bad to own your own home.
Grant always talks about it, right? Like, I mean, that's his jam.
You're flexible. You can go anywhere at any time.
Totally.
That's worth more than...
Well, your primary residence is just not an investment. I mean, you know, if you're building a nice home for your family.
I've got equity in it, Jay. I've got equity, Jay,
exactly.
And I don't have to pay rent,
and
I don't get kicked out, and I'm like, I've been renting for years. I never got kicked out. The landlord loves me. He's my friend.
Why would you want equity in
rent?
the house? Take it out and put it in something that cash flows. I would take it out and put it in a car wash.
We've been taught.
Yeah,
we've been taught.
No, programmed.
It's been programmed and brainwashed, and you know, my dad was always big into like, buy a home, son, buy a home. Like, God, Dad, I've got three of them. I've got 3 of them. I don't want them anymore.
I fell in that trap right when I was a few years in business, and I bought a single family home. I was a bachelor, and it was the dumbest thing I ever did. And I bought it in a neighborhood that was like on the fringe,
right?
And it decreased in value substantially.
Yeah, but it's getting better, Jay. It's getting better.
I finally got out.
Regentrification.
It literally took me like 10 years to like get out whole. And it was just the worst investment. But we are programmed to believe that buy your house, like I'm going to live in it. Dude, it also cramped my lifestyle, man. Totally. I was like stuck in this house as a bachelor. Like, what am I doing? People, do not make that mistake.
Well, you know, or learn the hard way really quick. Yeah. Like if you have to, like if sometimes I want to shake people, I'm like, just listen.
Yeah.
Like Grant Cardone and Ryan Tseko and these big influencers, like just pick one person. Don't get confused. Pick one person who you believe in and just listen to that. Like the majority of people, if you think about it, they're actually not like making stuff up so you buy their product.
Right.
They're telling you, because you can't tell the same story if you don't believe in it. You can't say it every day. Like if you say it one time and you don't really believe in it, then that's great. But you can't over and over and over and over. Like I actually truly believe that what we're doing, that what we're all talking about here, is actually helping the next generation. It's helping the youth. It's unprogramming this, because if you have a mind that's willing to grow, it will never. This quote is phenomenal to me. I read this when I was a pilot. It says, when you expand it and you grow, it will never, ever go back to its original state. It will never go back to its original form. And so I just encourage people, just learn. Like, hey, look, if you don't believe in that, go learn something. Like, just keep driving yourself forward, because I can tell you, I rent where I live, and I'm very happy renting where I live. Because actually what happens is I'm able to rent something for a cheaper amount than the value of the home or the condo that I live in on the beach in Sunny Isles. I'm able to rent for cheaper than if I were to own this. And so my quality of life, and I'm going to slow down when I say this, my quality of life actually improves.
Yeah.
Damn it, it improves by renting, not decreases.
Right.
So riddle me that.
Yeah.
You know, and I invest in all these deals. I earn all my money. I push it all into these real estate deals. I get the depreciation. I get the cash flow. Like I've got almost $3 million now invested across these deals, where, you know, like when I look up in 10 years, probably going to be 6, probably going to be 9, maybe 10. And then I'm always pushing more in. So that way my net worth, because my net worth grows as the value of these properties grow, so does my net worth. It's not just me going to work and earning money.
Yeah.
Hey guys, my name is Ryan. You know, welcome aboard.
Yeah. Let me clock in.
You're creating generational wealth.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Well, it's still working. Like I've got managers that are literally working today while I'm in New York.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting, because I was thinking about, you know, you going out of your way to come here today, which we really, really appreciate. It's amazing. Yep. And Mike reaching out to me earlier today, and I was in Connecticut running around as usual. And the minute that he's like, you know, we might be able to do this today, and he's like, can you be back in time? I'm like, dude, I can make anything happen. Of course I'm going to be there. Right. And I think, like, again, back to just the average way that people move, you know, I think you have to be available.
Yeah.
You have to be open to understanding that something that can go on in this conversation can change all of our lives, right? And I just feel like anytime that I'm able to meet somebody that's operating at a really high level, if I could take a couple of nuggets and implement them into my life, I'm going to be forever better. But more importantly, I'm going to be able to pour that off into my children, into the people around me, and make a bigger impact. And that's, I think, all of our goal here is to really be of service to more people. It's to make more money so we can do better with that money, right? It's not just about going out and buying the next nice watch or the next nice car. I love that shit. Don't get me wrong. And it feels good when your hard work pays off, right? And you can enjoy that shit. But I still get stuck between like, man, how much of this am I operating out of ego? Right. At 46, I'm like, shit, I want to go buy that fucking really fancy car and flex down the street. Yeah. Should I? Shouldn't I?
You should. You should with cash flow.
Right. You're right. Exactly.
Yeah, you should with cash flow. My car's 100%. Paid for with cash flow.
Yeah.
And I don't, you know, I don't try to make shit up in my head. Like I'm with you. I've always wanted to be I've always been a car guy.
Yeah.
So what I was saying is that, so my uncle, obviously he's been a huge impact in my life, especially when I was younger. But he says, Ryan, I'm not going to buy you or get you this car. Because when I got my first car, that was big to me, right? I mean, when you're 15 and a half, 16 years old, and they trust you to drive the car. Like I was 15 and a half years old, and I was driving the car all over the place because like they couldn't hold me back, right? I was like, he says, I'm not buying it because it's your first car. I'm not buying it because of the material thing. He says, I'm buying it for you because I want you to have the ability to dream and believe in yourself enough that you could actually go out there and achieve this stuff. He's like, you've been working your ass off for the last 3 years. I'm 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. This is a big deal, guys. Like, this is a huge deal. And I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? I really appreciate you seeing enough in me to receive this, take care of it, and I'm going to go make money on this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so you used it as a tool.
Manifestation.
I use it as a tool to go and do the next level up. The next level up.
And go fly the $40 million jet.
And go and
which
fly.
was the same experience, just magnified, basically.
I literally used to, this whole law of attraction and the visualization, like it's real. Like if you don't believe in it, like you're missing out. Like I used to have jets of the jet that I started out my career in. It was actually a smaller one. I used to post a 50-passenger CRJ 200 on when I'm training for like my private and instrument and commercial rating. I used to post them on the wall. I'm like, I'm gonna fly that jet. I'm gonna fly that. And my buddies, this is when I cut out all my friends, and they were like, "Oh, dude, that's cool, man. I'm gonna be a pilot." Da, 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 da. Like, all right. I was like, "All right, cool, man. You watch." And you know, they're not my friends anymore. Yeah. But that's the type of shit that we all deal with in society, where people with a bucket of crabs, you know, they want to put you in the bucket and they want to pull you back. You don't even need a fucking lid. Yeah. They want to pull you back because what you're doing makes them actually feel very uncomfortable.
You're holding a mirror up in front of them too, right? Like they see you doing all these great things, and you're this normal guy that they grew up with, right? And they're like, how's he actually doing this shit?
What's
like,
right?
Instead of being happy, they should be happy for you.
Should be.
They should.
Yeah.
Should. Are people happy when you make $2 million on a business flip or on a deal or whatever it is? They're like, oh, the next one
There's always haters.
Yeah. Oh, great job. Those are the most dangerous people. Yeah. Oh yeah, great job, Michael. Really great. Hope you could do it again.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, wow.
Yeah.
True Colors just came out. Are you really green right now? Or are you?
We could all use the fuel though. It's
How many haters does Grant have? He probably has a ton, right?
Well, of course. Yeah. I mean, we all have haters. It's just how visible are they? I really truly believe that if you don't have haters, you're actually not doing the right and the correct level of intensity. You're playing too safe. You're playing too small. I have haters. You have haters. We all have haters. Yeah. And we do. It does affect everybody to a certain level. But then you actually wake up the next day, and that's what I think about Grant is he's always popping. He's always popping. I think it's cool as an entrepreneur to be able to pop, to be able to spring. You're like, oh yeah, that's great. Boom, what am I doing next? Boom, let's post this. Boom, let's do this. Boom, let's work this deal. Because if you got something right here to go and grab, it always pulls you past the little daily bullshit.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Love it.
Great point.
It's fun, man. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. Life is fun. Life is supposed to be fun.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun. And part of that podcast I was listening to earlier was saying that, there's no such things. You're only in the moment. There's basically no such thing as the future, because when you hit that point, it's the moment that you're in, right? So there's no such thing really as a problem. There's challenges that you might encounter in the moment, but you don't really have problems.
And that's the biggest difference that I see between really successful people and not successful people is is it a problem or is it a solution? Right. I mean, you deal with that in your business, right?
All the time.
For me, I deal with it all the time. Like, are you bringing me a problem right now, like a little monkey on my back, or are you going to bring a solution? And seriously, like if people are like, oh, this is the problem, it's going to continue to be a problem. Congratulations. Or you can go out there, give me a few options. It's all about asking questions.
So what point in your relationship with Grant did a problem present itself that you were able to come with a solution that allowed you to take the next level with him?
Well, it's the problem with going back to real estate and deals. And it's a cool story too. I pride myself on this because it just goes back to the grit that I have. We were in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Elena, her parents live in not Lake Charles, it's Fairhope. It's Daphne, Alabama. It's right by Mobile. And so I was flying. I was the lead captain. This is probably like 2 months into the deal, right? And Elena was always the one that was like always trying to involve Ryan because Grant's fast paced. He's moving, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. And Elena's like, hey, do you want to come over for Christmas dinner? And I swear to you, the other pilot, this is crazy. He didn't want to go over there. He's like, oh, I feel uncomfortable. I feel this. I'm like, I'll see you tomorrow. Congratulations. I hope you feel uncomfortable when you're sleeping by yourself tonight and you're not including yourself with the group, the pack, the team, right? Because this is the 10X team. Yeah. And so to your point, I went over there, and that's where the biggest opportunity of my life actually happened. We were at Christmas dinner, and Grant came home. He has a property there called 10X. It's 344 units. There's a lot of numbers in my head, but I'm trying to think of the name. It's in God, I'll think of the name here in a second. But he has this property. It's 344 units. It's literally 5 minutes from his mother-in-law's house. And he came back to dinner, and he was pissed. He was like, the pool's dirty, the blinds are down, everything. I got vacancy. I got da. And I looked at him. I was like, Grant. I was like, walk me through it. Like, what's the solution, Grant? Like, in your mind, what would it be? And like, how can I help? And he's like, well, they'd be leasing more, and they'd be doing this, and they'd be doing this. And I said, what if I did this? What if I parked the jet when we fly back tomorrow and I flew up here and let me figure out what's going on with the property, but also let me lease. I think it's a bigger property. I think there was like 40 units that were vacant, right? That need to be turned over and rented out as like at 90% occupancy. And so he's like, you would do that? And I was like, that's what I'm here for. Let's go. I parked the jet and I was terrified. I got to shoot you guys straight. Like I'm new to Grant. I'm like a few months in. I'm like, what if I fail? Yeah. I'm like, what if I fail? What if I blow this thing up? Like, this is my shot. And he called me. He's like, hey, Ryan, I want you to go up there. I want you to buy an air mattress. I want you to stay in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I want you to live on site, and I want you to do this until you're done. I said, I'm going to go up there. I'm at least 40 units in 40 days. And he's like, let's go, bro. Grant Cardone, he's like, let's go. Let's do this thing. And he's like, when you're done with that one, send you the next one, right? He gets all excited. And so I went up there. I bought an air mattress. And I lived in one of the 1-bedrooms, and I posted up on the site. And the first day I joined the team meeting, I realized that the manager was incompetent. She had no lead gen, and they had no follow-up. They had no Cardone University. They had nothing. They had no skills, right?
Interesting, yeah.
They had no skills to pay the bills. Yeah. And so I called Grant. I'm like, this is a situation we're in. What would you recommend? He's like, go to the last 60 days. All the people who came into the property, start there. And I was like, awesome. 60-day report, all the people who didn't rent, I'm going to start calling them. I got one of the assistant managers, who was awesome, by the way, to help me make phone calls and get people on the phone. And I literally started cold calling people, going to business to business to business. And keep in mind, this is over Christmas, over New Year's, where the market's terrible, nobody's leasing, isn't the season.
Every excuse in the book.
How long ago was this?
This is 8 years ago.
8 years.
Yeah. I was literally
2015.
I was literally like in my first trial period with Grant. Wow. And so I started with cold calling, get people in the building, And I started going to businesses, and I was like, the street traffic and all this stuff. He's like, I want you to go print off a sign that says leasing now, put your cell number on there. And people would be like, you're going to put your cell number on there? And I was like, hell yeah, baby. 480-225, like the same number that I still have today, right? And I put my cell number everywhere, and I put it around town. I went to Enterprise. I went to all these places. And I shit you not, every day I got a lease. Every day.
Damn.
Every day I got a lease.
Yeah, clap it up.
And he didn't even let me stay the whole 40 days. I was literally there for 15 days. I got 15 leases. And he says, Ryan, he says, when you come back, you are joining the real estate team. He's like, this is awesome. He's like, you're willing to take direction. You're willing to learn. You're willing to grow. And you have the grit to really do. And so he literally started me out sweeping the floors and the grind and the property management, all this stuff. Like people are like, how did you go from being a pilot to, helping and running Cardone Capital to Grant? You start from the bottom.
You work your ass off.
And you work your way up every single day. And you get known. You get out of what we call non-existent with all the managers and the property managers and the accountants and the attorneys and everybody. Like everybody that works on our deals, they know who I am. Yeah. Clearly they do, right? Yeah. But at the beginning, they didn't. And so, you really have to go and grind and grit in every single day. But as you guys have probably picked up, when I go in, I go all in.
Of course.
And there's no other option.
Yeah, well, failure is not an option in that whole moment, or you wouldn't have suggested it, right?
Perfection is the only option.
You would have been scared shitless because you'd be better off actually staying quiet and just being a pilot.
As a pilot.
Right? You still
making great money.
You got your gig and you're good to go.
Wearing 4 bars.
But you believed in yourself and you knew that you could do exactly what you said. Even though it was lofty, by the way, 40 fucking leases. Like that was a bold statement.
No joke.
Very bold.
Yeah.
Very bold. And I did 15 in 15 days.
Amazing.
Which is still incredible over New Year's, over all these days, because I was willing to make the calls. I was willing to say, and there's a whole piece to it that, in your training, you go over this as well. When you call people, you have to have a level of intensity because everything goes back to what we initially started about is the energy.
Yeah.
Hey, remember when you went and toured this place? It's like, they don't even know the name. And Grant was like on the call, talk about the roses when you walk up and the big trees and the swimming pool and all that stuff. And that's what I was doing.
Tell the story. Yeah.
And I literally told these people, I'm like, oh, and by the way, when you were here 2 weeks ago, I found a better unit for a better deal, and I can get you in there because I've already hand-selected. I've already hand-picked it for you. So literally nobody has to make any decisions because I already made all the decisions for them.
I need this. This is phenomenal. I'm in.
I was talking people out of their leases. I literally was talking to them like, well, I'm going to go up to Spanish Fort and do this one. I was like, you don't want to do that. Why? The biggest reason you don't want to do that is because you don't have me. And I literally gave the tenants my cell number.
That's amazing.
And I made sure that all the units were ready to rock and roll and blah, 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 so they can move in. Like, people are like, well, you got to do this and you got to do that and you got to do this. I was like, okay. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do right now and let's see if it works. And if it doesn't, burn me.
Yeah.
Burn me with the witches, Jay. Burn them all.
It's white glove service right there.
Yeah. And so that's what I did. That's what I do. That's what I continue to do in the office. I mean, if there's an attorney bill that comes in for 30 grand and it should be 15, guess what I do? Mr. Attorney, not paying your bill, let me know when you reduce it.
Yeah.
Like I still do that to this day.
Yeah, it comes with the territory, right?
A little grinder.
Yeah.
Like a coffee machine.
I love it. I love it. Great.
So that started my career at Cardone Capital, and it was really a changing point. And that story is really impactful because I encourage people to just do whatever it takes to take the air mattress, to take the job, to take something that really scares the shit out of you, to have the guy, Grant, who is much further than me, will actually give you a shot and an opportunity to grow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this podcast was absolutely fire, and we really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And we could go on for another several hours.
Don't think, just do.
I mean, there's so many gems in this whole in this discussion here, and more in the future.
Yeah,
because we're gonna do a lot together.
Yeah. No, this
confident.
These are partnerships.
Yeah,
and I think that people listening to this, they need to get rid of the old, hey, partners are bad, and go in with partners are really good because they'll bring you up with them.
Collaboration.
And collaboration is the new currency.
We all add value. It's just 1 + 1 + 1 = 10.
Yep.
So where can everybody learn more about all the things that you guys are doing? Where would you direct people to go check this out?
I'm really big. So look, the website is cardonecapital.com. If somebody hasn't heard about us, great. Go check out our deals. If they're interested in real estate, right? This isn't a hard sell. If people want to invest passively as an LP limited partner, we find deals, we fund deals, we put all that stuff together and we package it, which are really good deals, like really great deals. For me personally, I'm bigger on Instagram, Ryan Tseko, Ryan Tseko. And then YouTube has now become very relevant in my face, saying, hey, this longer form content, people want to hear what you're saying. And Grant actually told me we were doing this real estate show. It's called Cash Flow King. And he's like, Ryan, I see a lot of this stuff on social media, but people want to hear you. People want to hear your message and your story because you resonate really well. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. And so I've been on this huge mission to give back and educate and to help people and really say, hey, look, this is okay to go out there and start on the bottom. This is okay to say that you are growing. This is okay for you to say that you're not trying to be this entrepreneur by yourself. Because I think there's a confusion between entrepreneur and solopreneur. Entrepreneur is somebody who includes people. Solopreneur thinks that you want to work for yourself and you're solo, and it gets really, really boring.
Yeah.
So, look, I'm really big on social media, but, again, they can find me where you're at. Because where you're at in that cold plunge is where I'm going to be.
Yeah, let's go. Man, thank you so much. This has been a blast.
Really appreciate it.